My daughter told me, "The garage is good enough for you." I stayed there for 2 nights. But on the 3rd night, I gave her an eviction notice. That's the short version. The real story starts 3 months earlier, at Ashley's wedding, when she slapped me in front of 100 people because I wouldn't hand over the keys to my downtown apartment. The apartment I'd worked 30 years to buy. The one Margaret and I had planned to retire in before the cancer took her. But let me back up further, because you need to understand how a man ends up sleeping in his own garage while his daughter and her husband live in his house. I'm Gerald Nelson, 62 years old, retired construction manager, widower. I built the house I'm about to tell you about with my own hands. Every nail, every beam, every square inch of drywall. It's a 3-bedroom colonial on 2 acres outside Columbus, Ohio, worth about $400,000, paid off completely. Margaret died 5 years ago. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4 by the time they caught it. She lasted 8 months after diagnosis. I held her hand while she slipped away in our bedroom upstairs, the room with the bay window she'd always wanted. After she died, I rattled around in that big house alone. Ashley started visiting more often. She'd always been distant after college, busy with her marketing career in Cleveland. But suddenly, she was calling every week, driving down on weekends, bringing groceries I didn't need. I thought she was being a good daughter. I thought wrong. 6 months after Margaret's funeral, Ashley showed up with Brian. He was 31 to her 29, unemployed and full of ideas, big ideas, business ideas, all of them requiring capital. "Dad, Brian's starting a consulting firm," Ashley said over dinner that night. "Business development consulting. He's got clients lined up, but he needs office space and startup capital." I should have said no right there. But Ashley had her mother's eyes, and I was lonely, and I thought maybe supporting her meant supporting her choices. I gave them $15,000. 3 months later, the consulting firm hadn't materialized. Brian had pivoted to real estate investing. He needed another $20,000 for a property flip that would double the investment in 6 months. I gave him the money. The property flip never happened. Brian said the deal fell through. The money disappeared like smoke. This pattern continued for 2 years. Every few months, a new business venture. E-commerce, drop shipping, cryptocurrency trading, life coaching, each one requiring an investment, each one failing spectacularly. By the time Ashley announced her engagement, I'd given them nearly $80,000. I'd refinanced my house to do it. The house I'd paid off years ago now had a mortgage again, but Ashley was getting married, and she wanted her father there. She wanted me to walk her down the aisle and give a toast and smile for the photos. So I put on my suit and showed up at the country club she'd rented for $12,000. My $12,000, though she didn't put it that way. The wedding was on a Saturday in April, cherry blossoms everywhere, white tablecloths, a string quartet, 150 guests. The whole production cost $43,000. I know because I paid for most of it. Brian's parents contributed $5,000. The rest came from me. I walked Ashley down the aisle. I smiled. I shook hands. I danced with my daughter to Unforgettable while people took pictures. I gave a toast about how proud Margaret would have been, and my voice only cracked once. Then came the reception. The drinks were flowing. The band was playing. People were laughing and dancing and having a wonderful time at my expense. I was standing near the bar, nursing a scotch and watching Ashley and Brian on the dance floor, when my daughter walked up to me with her hand extended. "I need your apartment keys," she said, just like that. No preamble, no please. "What apartment keys?" I asked, though I knew exactly what she meant. "The downtown apartment. Brian and I are moving in next week." My apartment. The 1-bedroom condo Margaret and I had bought 15 years ago as an investment property. We'd rented it out for years, using the income to pay down our mortgage. After Margaret died, I'd stopped renting it. It was my escape hatch, my backup plan, my one remaining asset that wasn't leveraged or borrowed against. "Ashley, that apartment isn't available," I said quietly. "I'm keeping it." Her smile vanished. "Dad, don't be difficult. We need it. Our lease is up and we can't afford rent in the city. You're not using it. I said no. People were starting to look at us. Ashley noticed. Her face flushed red. After everything we've done for you? Her voice was rising. After I've spent every weekend checking on you, making sure you're not alone in that house, and you can't do this one thing for me? You haven't spent every weekend checking on me, I said. You've spent every weekend asking for money. That's when she slapped me. Hard. Across the face, in front of the band and the guests and the photographer who caught the whole thing. The room went silent. Even the band stopped playing. Everyone stared. Ashley's face was twisted with rage. You selfish bastard. After everything. After all we've sacrificed. I touched my cheek. It was burning. My eyes were watering, but not from pain. Get out, Ashley said. Get out of my wedding. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I didn't recognize my daughter anymore. I didn't know when she'd disappeared and this entitled stranger had taken her place. So I left. I walked out of that country club with 150 people watching me go. I got in my truck and drove home. The next morning, Ashley called. Brian and I are moving in with you, she said. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened. We'll take the master bedroom upstairs. You can have the guest room. No, I said. Dad, be reasonable. We can't afford rent right now. Brian's business is at a critical stage. We just need a few months to get on our feet. No. Then we're coming anyway. It's not like you can stop us. She hung up. 2 days later, a moving truck pulled into my driveway. Ashley and Brian unloaded furniture and boxes while I watched from the porch. I'd called my lawyer that morning. He told me that legally, I couldn't physically prevent them from entering, but I could start eviction proceedings. It'll take 30 days minimum, he'd said. Maybe 60, but if they're not on the lease and they're not paying rent, you'll win. So I let them move in. I watched them take over my house, my bedroom, my space, my sanctuary. That first night, I slept in the guest room. The small one with the creaky bed and the window that doesn't quite close. The second night, Ashley knocked on the door. We need this room for Brian's office, she said. The garage has a cot. You'll be comfortable out there. I stared at her. You want me to sleep in my own garage? Just until we get settled. The garage is perfectly fine. It has heating and cooling. There's a bathroom out there. Ashley, Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. We're family. We help each other. I looked past her to where Brian was standing in the hallway, smirking. The garage is good enough for you, Ashley said. I moved my things to the garage that night. The garage is detached from the house, about 40 feet from the back door. I'd built it myself, insulated it, ran electricity and plumbing for a utility sink and toilet. I'd always planned to convert it into a workshop. Instead, it became my bedroom. I set up the cot in the corner. I had a space heater, a small refrigerator I used for drinks, and a workbench. My tools hung on pegboards along the walls. It smelled like motor oil and sawdust. I lay on that cot the first night and stared at the ceiling. Through the small window, I could see lights on in my house. My house. Where my daughter and her husband were sleeping in my bed. The second night was worse. It rained. Water leaked through a crack in the roof I hadn't noticed before, dripping onto the concrete floor near my cot. The sound kept me awake until dawn. But on the third night, something changed. I was lying there in the dark, listening to the rain when it hit me. Not sadness, not self-pity, anger, pure, cold anger. I'd built this house with my own hands. I'd paid off the mortgage through decades of hard work. I'd buried my wife in the cemetery 5 miles down the road, and now I was sleeping in the garage while my daughter and her parasite husband lived in my home, spending my money and treating me like garbage. No more. I got up, turned on the light, and pulled out my laptop. I drafted an email to my lawyer. Then I started documenting everything. Every dollar I'd given them. Every failed business. Every promise broken. Every manipulation. I worked through the night. By dawn, I had a case file 2 inches thick. At 8 a.m., I walked to the house and knocked on my own back door. Ashley answered in her bathrobe, looking annoyed. I handed her the eviction notice. "You have 30 days," I said. "After that, the sheriff removes you." She stared at the paper. "Dad, what is this?" "It's an eviction notice. You're not on the deed. You're not on any lease. You're trespassing. You have 30 days to leave." Brian appeared behind her. "You can't do this." "I already did. You'll receive official notice from the sheriff's department within 48 hours. Ashley's face went pale. "Dad, please. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before you put me in the garage." I turned and walked away. The next 3 days were quiet, too quiet. Ashley and Brian stayed in the house. I stayed in the garage. We didn't speak. When I needed to use the kitchen, I'd wait until I heard them go upstairs, then slip in and make coffee or grab food from the refrigerator. On the 4th day, Ashley tried a different approach. She knocked on the garage door around noon. I was at my workbench, pretending to organize tools, but really I was researching tenant rights and eviction procedures online. "Dad?" Her voice was soft, tentative, the voice she'd used as a little girl when she wanted something. "Can we talk?" I didn't answer. "I know you're in there. Please, just 5 minutes." I opened the door. Ashley stood there in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back. She looked tired. "I'm sorry," she said. "About the wedding, about the slap, about everything." I waited. I was stressed. The wedding planning, the money situation, Brian's business struggles. I took it out on you, and that wasn't fair. "You're right," I said. "It wasn't fair. So can we start over? Can you withdraw the eviction notice?" "No." Her expression hardened. "Dad, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. You don't pay rent. You don't contribute to bills. You took over my house and put me in the garage. Those aren't the actions of someone who respects me or this property. We're family. Family doesn't treat each other like this, Ashley." "So that's it? You're just going to kick us out? Your own daughter?" "You kicked me out first. I'm just making it official." She stared at me for a long moment. Then her face changed. The softness disappeared. What replaced it was something cold and calculating. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. She turned and walked back to the house. That night, I discovered what she meant. I was in the garage heating up soup on a hot plate when I heard shouting from the house. Male voices. Angry. I walked to the window and looked out. 2 police cars were parked in my driveway. I ran to the house. The back door was open. In the kitchen, 2 officers stood talking to Ashley and Brian. Ashley was crying. Brian had his arm around her, looking concerned. "What's going on?" I asked. One of the officers turned to me. "Are you Gerald Nelson?" "Yes. What's this about?" "We received a call about a domestic disturbance. Your daughter says you've been threatening her." "That's not true." "Dad, please," Ashley said, wiping her eyes. "Just admit you have a problem. We want to help you." I stared at her. "What?" Brian stepped forward. "Mr. Nelson, we're worried about you. You've been acting erratically since Margaret passed. The isolation, the anger, the paranoia. We think you need professional help." The officer was watching me carefully. "Have you been threatening your daughter, sir?" "No. I served her an eviction notice. She's living in my house without permission." "It's his house," Ashley said to the officers. "But he's not well. He's been having episodes. Confusion. Anger. We've been staying here to take care of him, and now he's trying to force us out." "That's a lie," I said. The officer's expression shifted slightly. I could see what he was thinking. Elderly man, widower, living in the garage. Maybe there was something to what the daughter was saying. "Sir, do you have the deed to this property?" the officer asked. "Yes, it's in my filing cabinet in the den." "Can you show me?" We went to the den. I opened the filing cabinet and pulled out the deed. The officer examined it. "Property is in your name," he said. "Both of them?" "My wife is deceased. I'm the sole owner." He nodded slowly. "And the eviction notice?" "Legitimate. Filed with my attorney yesterday. They'll receive official service within 48 hours. The officer looked at Ashley and Brian. "Ma'am, if the property is in his name and he's filed for eviction, this is a civil matter, not a criminal one." "But he threatened me," Ashley insisted. "Did he make specific threats of violence?" Ashley hesitated. "He said we'd regret staying." "That's not a threat. That's a statement of consequence." The officer turned back to me. "Mr. Nelson, I'd advise you to let the eviction process play out legally. Don't engage in confrontations." "I won't." "And you two," he said to Ashley and Brian, "you need to find other accommodations. If he's the legal owner and he wants you out, you can't stay here indefinitely." After the police left, I went back to the garage. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Ashley had tried to make me look incompetent in front of the police. She'd tried to paint me as an unstable old man who didn't know what he was doing. She'd learned that from Brian, I was sure of it. This was his style: manipulation, gaslighting, making the other person question their own sanity. I sat down at my laptop and added this incident to my documentation. Time, date, witnesses, what was said, everything. Then I emailed my lawyer with an update. His response came within an hour. "Keep documenting everything. Don't engage with them directly. Let the system work." The next morning, the sheriff's deputy arrived with official eviction papers. I watched from the garage window as Ashley accepted them at the door. She read them, then crumpled the papers in her fist. Through the window, I could see her screaming. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see her face. Red, furious, entitled. 20 minutes later, she was at the garage door. "You want to play it this way?" she said. "Fine. But you're going to lose a lot more than rent money." "What's that supposed to mean?" She held up her phone. "I've been documenting too, Dad. Your erratic behavior, your isolation, the way you've been acting since Mom died. I've got texts, emails, witnesses. I'm going to prove you're not competent to manage your own affairs. Good luck with that. I'm serious. I'll petition for guardianship. I'll get a doctor to declare you unfit, and then I'll take control of all of it. The house, the apartment, your bank accounts, everything." She was bluffing. She had to be. But there was something in her eyes that made me wonder. 30 days, Ashley," I said. "That's all you have." She smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "We'll see about that." Ashley made good on her threat faster than I expected. 2 days later, a woman in a business suit appeared at my garage door. She introduced herself as Dr. Patricia Brennan, a clinical psychologist. "Your daughter has expressed concerns about your mental health," she said. "I'd like to conduct an evaluation." "I don't need an evaluation." "Mr. Nelson, I understand this feels intrusive, but if your daughter pursues guardianship, the court will require a psychiatric assessment anyway. It would be in your best interest to cooperate now." I thought about refusing, but my lawyer had warned me this might happen. "Fine," I said, "but not here, in your office." We scheduled an appointment for the following week. Dr. Brennan left her card and drove away. That same afternoon, I received a call from my bank. The manager, a woman named Susan, who I'd known for 20 years, sounded worried. "Gerald, we need to talk about your accounts." "What about them?" "Someone tried to add themselves as a joint account holder this morning. They had your social security number and copies of your identification." My stomach dropped. "Who?" "Your daughter. We stopped the transaction because the signatures didn't match, but I wanted to alert you immediately." "Thank you, Susan." "Gerald, I'm going to recommend we add extra security to your accounts. Verbal password, two-factor authentication, everything. If someone is trying to access your money without permission, We need to lock this down. We spent 30 minutes on the phone securing my accounts. When I hung up, I was sweating. Ashley wasn't just trying to stay in my house. She was trying to take everything. I called my lawyer immediately. They're escalating, I told him. Police calls, psychiatric evaluations, attempted identity theft. What do I do? Richard Pearson had been my lawyer for 15 years. He'd handled Margaret's will, some property disputes, and various business matters. He was in his 50s, sharp as a razor, and didn't suffer fools. Document everything, he said. Every incident, every attempt at manipulation. We're building a case not just for eviction, but for a restraining order if necessary. Can they really get guardianship? It's difficult, but not impossible. They'd need to prove you're unable to manage your own affairs due to mental illness or cognitive decline. But Gerald, you're lucid. You're managing your finances. You're making rational decisions. No judge is going to declare you incompetent based on hearsay from an angry daughter. What about the psych evaluation? Take it. Be honest. Answer questions directly. The evaluator will see you're fine. It'll actually help our case. I felt slightly better after hanging up, but only slightly. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how far Ashley was willing to go. This wasn't just about free rent anymore. This was about control, power, money. She wanted it all. Around 2 a.m., I heard noises from the house, loud voices, arguing. I got up and looked out the window. Through the kitchen window of the house, I could see Ashley and Brian fighting. She was gesturing angrily. He was pacing. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could tell it was serious. Money problems, probably. They'd been living rent-free for a week now, but they still had bills. Car payments, credit cards, whatever lifestyle they'd been maintaining before moving in with me. The eviction clock was ticking. They had 23 days left. The arguing went on for an hour. Then the lights went out and the house was silent again. I went back to my cot, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, Brian cornered me as I was walking to my truck. "We need to talk," he said. "We don't." He stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Brian was maybe 6 feet tall, 20 years younger than me, and thought he was intimidating. He wasn't. "Look, this whole situation is getting out of hand," he said. "Ashley's upset. You're upset. Nobody's winning here." "I'm winning," I said. "In 23 days, you're out. What if we paid rent? Would that change things? Can you afford rent?" He hesitated. "We could work something out. A payment plan. You owe me $80,000 already, Brian. I'm not adding to that debt. That was business investment. This is different. It's all the same. You take money and never pay it back." His jaw tightened. "You know what your problem is, Gerald? You're bitter. Margaret died, and you can't handle it, so you're taking it out on us." I stepped closer to him. "My problem is that my daughter married a con artist who's been bleeding me dry for 2 years. My problem is that I was stupid enough to believe your lies. But I'm done being stupid." "You'll be done being a grandfather too," Brian said. "Because when we leave, we're gone. You'll never see Ashley again, or any grandkids she might have. You'll die alone in this house." The words hit harder than I expected, not because they were cruel, but because they were probably true. I walked past him to my truck and drove away. The psychiatric evaluation happened on a Wednesday afternoon in Dr. Brennan's office downtown. The office was modern and impersonal, with abstract art on the walls and too many plants. Dr. Brennan was professional. She asked questions about my medical history, my daily routines, my relationship with Ashley. I answered honestly. Yes, I'd grieved after Margaret died. No, I hadn't sought therapy. Yes, I'd been supporting Ashley financially. No, I didn't think I was incompetent or unable to manage my affairs. "Your daughter says you've been living in your garage," Dr. Brennan said. "Can you explain that?" "My daughter and her husband moved into my house without permission. They took my bedroom and the guest room. They told me to sleep in the garage." "And you complied?" "I wanted to avoid confrontation while I arranged legal eviction." "Why not call the police immediately?" "I did consult my lawyer. He advised me to file eviction papers and let the process work. That's what I'm doing. Dr. Brennan made notes. How do you feel about your daughter right now? Disappointed, angry, betrayed? Do you still love her? I had to think about that. I love who she used to be. I don't know who she is now. The evaluation lasted 90 minutes. At the end, Dr. Brennan closed her notebook. Mr. Nelson, I'll be submitting my report to the court if your daughter files for guardianship. But I can tell you right now, I see no evidence of cognitive decline or mental incompetence. You're grieving and dealing with a difficult family situation, but that doesn't make you unfit. Thank you. However, I would recommend therapy. Not because you're incompetent, but because you've experienced significant loss and betrayal. Talking to someone could help. I nodded. I probably wouldn't go, but I appreciated the suggestion. As I left her office, my phone rang. Richard Pearson. Gerald, we have a problem, he said. What now? Ashley filed a motion to delay the eviction. She's claiming you're mentally unfit to file legal documents and that the eviction notice is invalid. But I just finished the psych evaluation. Dr. Brennan says I'm fine. The report isn't filed yet, and Ashley found a different doctor willing to say you might be impaired based on her testimony alone. It's a stalling tactic. Will it work? It'll buy her a few weeks. We'll have to go before a judge, present Dr. Brennan's evaluation, demonstrate your competence. It's manageable, but it's going to delay things. I closed my eyes. How long? Could be another 30 days on top of the eviction timeline, maybe more. 2 months total. 2 more months of living in my garage while Ashley and Brian occupied my house. Fight it, I said, whatever it takes. I will, but Gerald, there's something else. Ashley's hired a lawyer, James Morton. He's aggressive and expensive. Where is she getting the money for this? I knew exactly where. She probably took out a loan in my name again. You need to check your credit report today. If she's fraudulently opened accounts, we can use that against her. I drove straight to the bank. Susan helped me pull my credit report. 3 new credit cards, 2 personal loans, all opened in the last 6 months, all in my name. Total debt, $42,000. I felt sick. Gerald, this is identity theft, Susan said. You need to file a police report. Can I prove it was Ashley? The applications would have required signatures and identification. If they're forged, you have a case. I took copies of everything and drove to the police station. The officer who took my report was skeptical at first until I showed him the documents. The signatures weren't even close to mine. We'll investigate, he said. But this could take months. Financial fraud cases aren't quick. I just need it documented, I said. For court. Back at the garage that night, I added everything to my case file. The fraudulent accounts, the credit report, the police report number. I emailed it all to Richard. His response was immediate. This changes everything. She's not just an unwanted tenant anymore. She's a criminal. The next morning, Ashley was waiting for me when I came out of the garage. Did you really file a police report against me? She asked. You committed fraud, multiple times. Those loans were for us, for our future. I'm your daughter. You would have given me the money anyway. That's not how it works, Ashley. You're going to regret this. When the court sees how vindictive you're being, they'll side with us. The court will see documentation, evidence, reality. You're going to lose. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped. I'm your only child, Dad. Your only family. You really want to destroy that? You destroyed it when you slapped me at your wedding. I was upset. You've been upset for 2 years, every time I didn't give you money fast enough, every time I questioned Brian's schemes. You've been manipulating me since Mom died, and I was too lonely to see it. Her face crumpled. For a moment, she looked like the little girl I used to read bedtime stories to. Then the moment passed, and the mask came back. I hope it's worth it, she said. Being right, being alone, I hope it keeps you warm at night. She walked back to the house, I stood there in the driveway watching her go and wondered if I was making a terrible mistake. Then I remembered the garage, the cot, the leaking roof, the way she'd looked at me when she said, "The garage is good enough for you." No, I wasn't making a mistake. I was taking my life back. The court hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. In the meantime, life became a cold war. Ashley and Brian stayed in the house. I stayed in the garage. We didn't speak. When our paths crossed, we moved around each other like strangers. But the tension was building. I could feel it in the way Brian watched me when I came to the house for food. In the way Ashley's lawyer kept calling Richard with delays and motions and procedural questions designed to drag things out. They were trying to wear me down, make me give up, withdraw the eviction and let them stay. It wouldn't work. I spent those 3 weeks fortifying my case. I got statements from the bank about the fraudulent accounts. I got copies of all the failed business ventures I'd funded. I documented every dollar I'd given them over 2 years. The number was stunning when I added it up. $87,000. Not 80 like I'd thought. 87. My retirement savings decimated. My house mortgaged again. My apartment almost leveraged to pay their debts. And what had I gotten in return? A cot in the garage. Richard was confident. The judge will see through this. The fraud alone is enough to rule in your favor. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going to go wrong. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the cot, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain on the roof. The leak had gotten worse. I'd put a bucket under it, and the steady drip, drip, drip was driving me crazy. Around midnight, I heard footsteps outside. I sat up. Through the window, I saw Brian walking toward the garage. He was carrying something. I stood up and went to the door. I didn't open it. "Gerald," Brian called, "I know you're awake. We need to talk." "We don't. I'm trying to help you here. Give you a way out before this gets worse." "How much worse can it get? You've stolen my money, taken my house, and ruined my credit." "Drop the police report," Brian said. "Withdraw the eviction. Let us stay 6 more months rent-free. After that, we'll leave voluntarily. No lawyers, no court, no drama. And what do I get? You get your daughter back. You get family. Isn't that worth more than money?" I opened the door. Brian stood there in the rain, soaking wet, trying to look sincere. "You want to know what's worth more than money?" I said. "Self-respect, dignity, peace in my own house. Things you can't give me because you took them away." "You're making a mistake. I made a mistake 2 years ago when I believed your lies. I'm not making another one." Brian's expression hardened. "Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you. Tomorrow in court, you're going to see what real hardball looks like. Ashley's lawyer is going to tear you apart. Let him try." Brian turned and walked back to the house. I closed the door and sat down on the cot. My heart was pounding, not from fear, from anticipation. Tomorrow, this ended, one way or another. The courthouse was downtown, a limestone building with too many stairs. I met Richard in the lobby at 8:30. He was carrying a briefcase stuffed with documents. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Ready." "Good. Because Ashley's lawyer is going to come at you hard. Stay calm. Answer questions honestly. Don't get emotional." "I won't." We went through security and up to the 3rd floor. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, with wooden benches and fluorescent lights. Ashley and Brian were already there with their lawyer. James Morton looked exactly like I'd imagined. Mid-40s, expensive suit, slicked back hair, the kind of lawyer who charged $500 an hour to make people's lives miserable. Ashley didn't look at me. She sat next to Morton, staring straight ahead. The judge entered. Honorable Patricia Whitmore. She was in her 60s, stern-faced, reading through the case file as she sat down. "This is a motion to delay eviction," she said, "based on claims of mental incompetence of the property owner. Mr. Pearson, you're representing Mr. Nelson?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Mr. Morton, you're representing the tenants?" Yes, Your Honor. Ashley Nelson and Brian Harper. Let's hear it. Morton stood up. Your Honor, my clients are the daughter and son-in-law of Gerald Nelson. They've been living with Mr. recently. Mr. Nelson has exhibited erratic behavior, including paranoia, aggression, and questionable decision-making. We believe he's not mentally competent to file for eviction, and we're requesting a delay until a full psychiatric evaluation can be completed. Your Honor, Richard said, standing, Mr. Nelson has already completed a psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Patricia Brennan examined him last week and found no evidence of cognitive decline or mental incompetence. I have her report here. He handed the report to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. Judge Whitmore read for several minutes. Then she looked up. Mr. Morton, this report clearly indicates Mr. Nelson is competent. Do you have evidence to the contrary? We have testimony from family members and documentation of erratic behavior. Such as? Mr. Nelson has been living in his garage despite having a perfectly functional house. He's filed a police report against his own daughter for identity theft based on loans she took out with his knowledge and consent. He's attempting to evict his family during a difficult financial time, showing a lack of empathy and judgment. Your Honor, Richard interrupted, Mr. Nelson is living in his garage because his daughter and son-in-law took over his bedroom and guest room without permission. The loans were not taken with his knowledge. They were fraudulent applications using forged signatures, and the eviction is justified because the tenants are not on the lease, don't pay rent, and have been financially exploiting Mr. Nelson for 2 years. Judge Whitmore looked at Morton. Do you have evidence that Mr. Nelson consented to these loans? We have testimony from my clients. That's not evidence. That's hearsay. She turned to Richard. Do you have evidence of fraud? Yes, Your Honor. Credit reports showing signatures that don't match Mr. Nelson's. Bank statements showing unauthorized transactions. A police report number for active investigation. Richard handed over the documents. The judge examined them. The courtroom was silent. I could hear Ashley breathing next to Morton. She sounded nervous. Judge Whitmore looked up. Mr. Morton, these signatures are clearly different from the exemplars provided. This appears to be a legitimate fraud claim. Your Honor, family members often help each other with paperwork. That's not help. That's forgery. The judge's voice was sharp. And it undermines your entire argument. You're claiming Mr. Nelson is incompetent while simultaneously arguing his daughter had the right to make financial decisions in his name. Which is it? Morton shifted. Your Honor, we're simply asking for time. Time for what? Your clients have presented no credible evidence of incompetence. Dr. Brennan's evaluation is thorough and clear. The fraud allegations are documented and under investigation. I see no reason to delay these proceedings. I felt something loosen in my chest. However, the judge continued, I do want to hear from Mr. Nelson directly. Mr. Nelson, please approach. I stood and walked to the front. My legs felt steady. I'd been waiting for this. Mr. Nelson, why are you seeking to evict your daughter? Because she and her husband have been living in my house without paying rent, without my permission, and have been financially exploiting me for 2 years. I've given them $87,000 for failed business ventures. They've taken over my home and forced me to live in my garage. I want my house back. Did you consent to living in the garage? No, Your Honor. They told me that's where I'd be staying. I complied because I was arranging legal eviction and didn't want to escalate the situation. Did you authorize the loans in question? No, Your Honor. I discovered them when I checked my credit report. The signatures are forged. Judge Whitmore nodded. Mr. Nelson, do you love your daughter? The question caught me off guard. I love who she used to be. But not who she is now? I thought about it. Really thought about it. She's my daughter. That doesn't change. But love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. The judge made a note. You may sit down. I returned to my seat. Richard gave me a small nod. Mr. Morton, the judge said, I'm denying your motion to delay. The eviction will proceed on the original timeline. Your clients have 17 days to vacate the property. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full financial audit of all transactions between Mr. Nelson and your clients. If fraud is confirmed, I may issue a restraining order preventing your clients from contacting Mr. Nelson or accessing his property in the future. Ashley made a small sound, almost a gasp. Your Honor, Morton said, please reconsider. My decision is final. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. I sat there for a moment, letting it sink in. 17 days. The eviction was happening. Richard put his hand on my shoulder. We won. Ashley was crying. Brian was talking to Morton urgently, but the lawyer was shaking his head. There was nothing more they could do. As I left the courtroom, Ashley called after me. Dad, wait! I stopped, turned around. She was standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. Brian was behind her, looking furious. Please, she said, don't do this. We're family. We were family, I said, before you decided I was an ATM machine. I made mistakes. I know that, but we can fix this. Just give us a chance. I gave you 2 years of chances. You used everyone to take more from me. Where are we supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, Ashley. I walked away. This time she didn't follow. The next 17 days were the longest of my life. Ashley and Brian didn't go quietly. They fought every step of the way. They filed a motion for extension. Denied. They claimed they needed more time to find housing. Denied. They tried to get a different judge to review the case. Denied. The system, for once, was working in my favor. But the tension in the house became unbearable. Every time I went inside for food or to shower, I could feel their hostility. Brian would glare at me. Ashley would make pointed comments about abandonment and betrayal. I stopped going inside except when absolutely necessary. I bought a camping stove and a cooler and started cooking in the garage. I showered at the gym down the road. I was a prisoner on my own property, but only for 17 more days. Richard called me on day 12. The sheriff will be there on the 17th day at 9 a.m. to supervise the eviction. If they're not out by then, deputies will physically remove them and their belongings. What about the locks? Change them the moment they're gone. I've already arranged for a locksmith to be there at 9:30. What if they damage the property before they leave? Document everything. Take photos. If there's damage, we'll pursue civil action. On day 15, I walked past the house and noticed something. The lights were on late into the night. I could hear movement inside, packing maybe, or something else. On day 16, I woke up to find my truck had a flat tire. Not a slow leak, a slash through the sidewall. I called the police. They took a report but said without proof of who did it, there was nothing they could do. I replaced the tire and added the incident to my documentation. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the garage with the lights off, watching the house, waiting. Around 2 a.m., Brian came outside. He walked to the garage and stopped about 10 feet away. You know what tomorrow means, right? He called. I didn't answer. It means you've lost a daughter, no family, no legacy, just a bitter old man in an empty house. Go back inside, Brian. You think you've won, but you haven't. You've destroyed the only family you had left. For what? Pride? Money? Was it worth it? I stood up and walked to the door, opened it. Margaret would be ashamed of you, Brian said. That one hit deep. I felt my hands clench into fists. Margaret would never have let this happen, I said quietly. She would have seen through you from the start. She would have protected me from you. She'd want you to forgive your daughter. She'd want me to have self-respect, something you know nothing about. Brian stepped closer. One day you're going to regret this. You'll remember this moment and realize you were wrong. Maybe. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was a bitter, hollow sound. See you tomorrow, Gerald. He walked back to the house. I closed the door and sat down. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from anger, from exhaustion. One more day. I woke up at dawn on the 17th day, the eviction day. I made coffee on my camping stove and sat on the cot, sipping it slowly. Outside, the sky was gray. It looked like rain. At 8:30, Richard called. "Are you ready?" "Yes." "The sheriff will be there at 9. I'll be there at 8:45. Don't engage with them. Let the deputies handle everything." "Understood." I finished my coffee and walked outside. The house was quiet. No lights on. No movement. Maybe they'd already left. Maybe this would be easy. At 8:45, Richard's car pulled into the driveway. He got out carrying his briefcase and a camera. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I'll be better in an hour." At 9 a.m. exactly, 2 sheriff's vehicles arrived. 4 deputies got out. The lead deputy, a woman named Garcia, introduced herself. "Mr. Nelson? I'm Deputy Garcia. We're here to supervise the eviction of Ashley Nelson and Brian Harper from this property. Do you know if they're currently inside?" "I don't know." "Let's find out." We walked to the front door. Deputy Garcia knocked. "Sheriff's Department, open the door, please." No response. She knocked again, louder. "This is the Sheriff's Department. We have a court order for eviction. Open the door or we'll enter by force." Still nothing. Deputy Garcia looked at me. "Do you have a key?" "Yes." I handed it to her. She unlocked the door and pushed it open. "Sheriff's Department. We're entering the property." We went inside. The house was empty. Not just empty of people, empty of everything. The furniture was gone, the pictures off the walls, the dishes from the cabinets, even the curtains. We walked through the rooms. Living room, empty. Kitchen, empty. Upstairs, empty. They'd taken everything, every piece of furniture, every decoration, every item that wasn't nailed down. In the master bedroom, I found a note taped to the wall. "Hope you enjoy your empty house. You earned it." I stood there, looking at the bare walls, the naked windows, the gouges in the hardwood floor where they'd dragged furniture. Richard was taking photos. "This is good," he said. "This is documentation of malicious behavior. We can sue for the value of everything they took." Deputy Garcia was writing in her notebook. "Do you have an inventory of what was here?" "Some of it was theirs," I said. "But they took my furniture too. The couch Margaret and I bought, the dining room table, the bedroom set." "Make a list. Document everything missing. File it with your attorney." The deputies did a full sweep of the house to make sure Ashley and Brian were really gone. Then they filled out paperwork, confirming the eviction was complete. After they left, it was just me and Richard standing in my empty house. "Gerald," Richard said quietly, "I'm sorry. I know this isn't how you wanted this to end. I wanted my house back. I got it. They stole from you. We can pursue legal action." "For what? They don't have money. They don't have assets. A judgment against them is worthless." "So what do you want to do?" I walked through the empty rooms. My footsteps echoed. This house used to be full of life. Margaret cooking in the kitchen, Ashley's childhood drawings on the refrigerator, sounds of laughter and conversation. Now it was just walls and floors and silence. "I want them gone," I said. "Completely. Forever. Change the locks. File a restraining order. Make sure they can never come back here." Done. The locksmith arrived at 9:30 as planned. He changed every lock in the house. Front door, back door, garage, even the windows. When he was finished, he handed me a set of new keys. "Nobody's getting in here without your permission," he said. After everyone left, I stood alone in my empty house. The house I'd built with my own hands, the house Margaret and I had made a home. I should have felt victorious. I'd won. The eviction was complete. Ashley and Brian were gone. But I just felt tired. I walked upstairs to the master bedroom, the room where Margaret had died, the room Ashley and Brian had taken over. It was empty now, just bare walls and scratched floors. I sat down in the middle of the room and looked out the bay window, the one Margaret had always wanted. Outside, rain started to fall. I spent the next 3 days cleaning. The house was filthy. Ashley and Brian had left trash everywhere, stains on the carpets, holes in the walls where they'd hung pictures. The bathroom was disgusting, mold in the shower, broken tiles, a cracked mirror. They'd trashed the place on their way out. I documented everything with photos, sent them to Richard. He added them to the lawsuit he was preparing. But I wasn't holding my breath for any money. Ashley and Brian were broke. On the 4th day, I bought a mattress and moved out of the garage. I set it up in the master bedroom and slept in my own house for the first time in 3 weeks. It should have felt good. But the house was too empty, too quiet. I kept thinking about what Brian had said. Maybe he was right. On the 5th day, I called the furniture store and ordered a new couch, a dining room table, and a chair for the living room. Nothing fancy, just enough to make the house livable. The furniture was delivered 2 days later. I spent an afternoon arranging it, trying to make the house feel like a home again. It didn't work. It just felt like furniture in empty rooms. That night, I sat on my new couch and flipped through old photo albums, pictures of Margaret, pictures of Ashley as a child, Halloween costumes and birthday parties and Christmas mornings. Somewhere along the way, that little girl had disappeared. The one who used to climb into my lap and ask me to read her stories. The one who'd cried when she scraped her knee and wanted her daddy to make it better. I didn't know when she'd changed. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it happened all at once. But the daughter in these photos wasn't the same woman who'd slapped me at her wedding and stolen my money and forced me to live in my garage. I closed the album and put it away. A week after the eviction, Richard called with an update. "The financial audit is complete," he said. "The fraud charges are moving forward. Ashley and Brian will face criminal charges for identity theft and forgery." What does that mean? If convicted, they could face fines and probation. Possibly jail time, though that's unlikely for a first offense. I don't want them in jail. Gerald, they committed crimes against you. I know, but prison doesn't fix anything. It just makes things worse. Richard was quiet for a moment. What do you want then? I want restitution. I want them to pay back what they stole, even if it takes years. We can push for that. Structured payments as part of a plea deal. But Gerald, realistically, they may never pay you back. They don't have money. Then they'll have to get jobs, real jobs, not Brian's fake consulting business, real work. I'll see what we can do. 2 weeks after the eviction, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Dad?" Ashley's voice, small, broken. "What do you want?" "I'm sorry. For everything. You were right. About Brian, about the money, about all of it. I didn't say anything. We're staying at a motel. We can't afford rent anywhere. Brian's looking for work, but nobody's hiring. I don't know what we're going to do. You should have thought about that before you forged my signature and stole my furniture. I know. I don't know what happened to me. I got so focused on money and keeping up appearances, and I forgot what was important. What do you want from me, Ashley?" "Nothing. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, and that I love you, even if you don't believe that anymore." I closed my eyes. "I believe you love me. I just don't trust you. I understand. Are you staying with Brian?" She hesitated. "For now. But I don't think we're going to make it. He's angry all the time. Blames everyone but himself. I'm starting to see what you saw. You need to leave him, Ashley. He's poison." "I know. I'm working on it." We were quiet for a moment. I could hear traffic in the background on her end. Wherever she was, it wasn't quiet or peaceful. "I'm not going to drop the charges," I said finally. "You committed fraud. There have to be consequences. I know. But if you want to work out a payment plan for what you owe me, we can discuss that with the lawyers. No interest, just the principal, $87,000, paid back over time. That's more than fair. And Ashley, you need therapy, real therapy. Not because you're crazy, but because you've lost yourself somewhere along the way. You need to figure out who you are without Brian telling you. Okay. Her voice cracked. Thank you, Dad. Don't thank me yet. This is going to take years, maybe decades. But if you actually do the work, get therapy, get a real job, pay me back, then maybe we can rebuild something. Not what we had, but something. I'll do it. I promise. We'll see. I hung up. I sat on my couch in my empty house and looked around. The walls needed paint. The floors needed refinishing. There was a lot of work to do to make this place feel like home again. But it was my home. Mine. Nobody else's. And that was enough. 3 months after the eviction, I started noticing changes. Small things at first. A message from Richard saying Ashley had made her first payment toward the $87,000 she owed. It was only $200, but it was something. Then a text from Ashley saying she'd moved out of the motel and into a small apartment. Without Brian, she'd gotten a job at an insurance company, entry level, but steady. I didn't respond to the text, but I saved it. Another month passed, another payment arrived, $200 again. On time. Richard called with an update on the criminal case. Ashley and Brian took a plea deal. Probation, community service, and mandatory restitution payments. No jail time. What about Brian? His payments are separate from Ashley's. He has to pay back his half. If he doesn't, he violates probation and could face jail time. Good. I spent those months fixing up the house. I repainted every room, refinished the hardwood floors, replaced the broken tiles in the bathroom. I took my time, doing the work myself, the way I used to when Margaret was alive. The house started to feel like mine again. I wasn't lonely, exactly, but I wasn't not lonely either. I went to the hardware store and the grocery store and the gym. I talked to people, made small talk, but I went home alone every night to my empty house. One Saturday in December, 6 months after the eviction, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Ashley stood on the porch, holding a grocery bag. I almost didn't open the door. But curiosity won. "Hi, Dad," she said when I opened the door. She looked different, thinner, tired. But there was something else, too. Something clearer in her eyes. "What do you want?" "I brought groceries. I thought maybe I could make dinner, like I used to when Mom was alive. Just dinner, nothing else. And if you want me to leave after, I will." I looked at the bag, then at her. "Where's Brian?" "Gone. We got divorced last month. He violated probation by missing payments. He's in jail for 90 days. And you?" "I'm on probation for 2 more years. I'm paying you back, $200 a month. I'm seeing a therapist every week. I'm trying to figure out who I am without him." I stood there in the doorway, looking at my daughter. She'd hurt me, betrayed me, stolen from me, slapped me in front of 100 people. But she was also the little girl who used to climb into my lap and ask me to read her stories. "What are you making?" I asked. "Mom's pot roast, if you still have her recipe. It's in the kitchen, 2nd drawer." She smiled. Just a little. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. Ashley walked into the house. She stopped in the living room, looking around at the new furniture, the fresh paint. "It looks good," she said. "Like you again." "It's getting there." She went to the kitchen and started unpacking groceries. I watched from the doorway. "I'm not forgiving you," I said. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." "I know. But you can make dinner." "Okay." She found the recipe and started cooking. I sat at the kitchen table and watched her work. She moved around the kitchen the way Margaret used to. Same gestures, same focus. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much to say yet. Too much hurt between us. Too much damage. But she was there. In my house. Cooking dinner. Making an effort. It was something. The pot roast took 3 hours. While it cooked, Ashley told me about her job, her apartment, her therapy. She didn't make excuses, didn't try to justify what she'd done, just talked. I listened. When the food was ready, we sat down at my new dining room table and ate. The pot roast was good, not as good as Margaret's, but close. "Thank you for this," Ashley said, "for letting me try." "Don't thank me yet. You've got a long way to go." "I know, $87,000 worth." "More than that. You've got trust to rebuild, respect to earn back. That's harder than money." "I know." We finished eating. Ashley cleaned up the kitchen while I sat at the table. When she was done, she came back into the dining room. "I should go," she said. "Okay. Can I come back? Next month, maybe? Make dinner again?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "Yes," I said finally. "But Ashley, if you screw up again, if you miss a payment or lie or try to manipulate me, that's it. We're done. Forever. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Good." She grabbed her coat and walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the knob. "I love you, Dad." I didn't answer right away. The words were stuck somewhere between my heart and my throat. "I know you do," I said finally. She left. I sat alone in my house, looking at the dishes drying on the counter, smelling the lingering aroma of pot roast. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever completely. But it was a start. Epilogue 2 years later. I'm sitting on my porch on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise. The house behind me is quiet, but not empty. I've filled it with furniture and books and memories that don't hurt anymore. Ashley still comes for dinner once a month. She's made 37 payments so far, $7,400 toward the $87,000 she owes. At this rate, it'll take another 30 years for her to pay it all back. I'll be 92 years old if I live that long. I probably won't. But that's not really the point anymore. The point is that she's trying, really trying. She's been at the same job for 2 years now, got promoted twice, she's still in therapy, still living in her small apartment, still single. Last month, she showed me a picture on her phone. It was her standing in front of a new car, nothing fancy, a used Honda Civic, but she'd bought it herself with her own money. "Look, Dad," she'd said, her voice full of pride. "No co-signer, no loan in your name, all me." I'd looked at the picture and felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight for 3 years. "Good job, Ashley." She'd smiled, really smiled. Not the fake smile she used to give me when she was asking for money. A real one. We're not where we were before all this happened. We never will be. Too much damage, too much betrayal. But we're somewhere. And that's more than I expected 3 years ago when I was sleeping in my garage and planning my revenge. Brian is gone. Last I heard, he violated probation again after getting out of jail. He's back inside now, serving 18 months. Ashley doesn't talk about him. I don't ask. The house is mine again, completely. Every room, every corner, every inch of space belongs to me. I wake up in my own bed every morning. I cook in my own kitchen. I sit in my own living room. It's quiet, sometimes too quiet. But it's mine. And on the days when the loneliness feels too heavy, I remember what it felt like to sleep in that garage, to be a prisoner on my own property, to watch my daughter and her husband steal my life piece by piece. I remember the moment I decided to fight back, and I know I made the right choice. Dignity costs something. Self-respect costs something. Taking your life back costs something. But living without them costs more. I finish my coffee and stand up. There's work to do today. The garage needs organizing. The yard needs mowing. Normal work. Good work. My phone buzzes. A text from Ashley. "Made another payment. Check your account. See you next Saturday for dinner?" I text back. "Confirmed. See you then." I put my phone away and walk toward the garage. The place where this all started. The place where I hit rock bottom and decided to climb back up. I open the door and look inside. I've cleaned it out completely. No more cot. No more camping stove. Just tools and equipment and empty space. I smile. The garage is just a garage again, not a bedroom, not a prison, just a place where I keep my tools and work on projects and sometimes sit and think about everything that happened. I grab my lawnmower and head toward the front yard. The grass needs cutting, and I've got work to do. I was in the garage, my workshop now, not my bedroom, rebuilding a carburetor for my old pickup when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Nelson, this is Detective Sarah Morrison with Columbus PD. Do you have a moment? My stomach tightened. What's this about? It's regarding Brian Harper, your former son-in-law. He's been arrested. I know. Probation violation. That was months ago. This is different. He was released 6 weeks ago. 3 days ago, he was arrested for fraud again. And your name came up. I set down the wrench. How? He's been running a scheme. Fake investment opportunities. He used your story, the successful eviction, the court case, as part of his pitch. Told potential victims he'd learned from his mistakes, turned his life around. Then he took their money. How much? Over $200,000 from 11 victims. Mr. Nelson, we need you to come down to the station. We may need your testimony. I went. Spent 3 hours giving a statement. Showed them all my documentation from the eviction, the fraud charges, the payment records from Ashley. Your daughter isn't involved, Detective Morrison assured me. We've checked. She's been making legitimate payments to you. She has a clean record since the plea deal. This is all Brian. How'd you catch him? One of his victims was a retired prosecutor. She got suspicious and called us. We've been building the case for 2 weeks. When I left the station, I sat in my truck for a long time. Brian was going to prison. Real prison this time. The detective said he was looking at 5 to 10 years. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated, but I just felt tired. I drove home and called Ashley. She answered on the first ring. Dad, everything okay? The police called me about Brian. Silence. Then, I heard. His mother called me yesterday. She's devastated. Did you know what he was doing? No, I swear, Dad. I haven't talked to Brian in over a year, not since the divorce was finalized. I didn't know. I believed her. I could hear the truth in her voice. The police said you're not involved. I'm not. I learned my lesson. I'm never going back to that life. Good. We were quiet for a moment. Do you think... Ashley's voice was small. Do you think there's something wrong with me? That I chose him? That I didn't see what he was? I think you were young, and he was convincing. And I think you've spent 2 years fixing your mistakes. That's what matters. I still have so far to go. The debt, the trust. 1 month at a time, Ashley, that's all anyone can do. After we hung up, I went back to the garage and tried to focus on the carburetor. But my mind kept wandering. Brian had used my story, my pain, my humiliation, turned it into part of his con. Some people never changed. 3 months later, Ashley showed up on a Saturday in June, but this time she wasn't alone. A man was with her, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a button-down shirt, carrying a bottle of wine. He looked nervous. Dad, Ashley said from the porch. This is Michael Patterson. We've been seeing each other for a few months. I wanted you to meet him. I looked at Michael. He met my eyes and didn't look away. Mr. Nelson, he said, extending his hand. Ashley's told me a lot about you, and about what happened. I just want you to know I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm just here because Ashley means a lot to me. I shook his hand. His grip was firm. What do you do, Michael? I'm a high school teacher, math and science, been teaching for 8 years. A teacher. Steady job, pension, benefits. Come inside, I said. Dinner was awkward at first. Michael was careful with his words, asked questions about the house, about my construction background, about the work I'd done. He didn't ask about money, didn't pitch any business ideas, just talked. Ashley watched both of us nervously, like she was waiting for something to explode. It didn't. After dinner, Michael helped clean up while Ashley made coffee. I watched him work. He was methodical, thorough. He washed the dishes properly, didn't just rinse them. "How'd you two meet?" I asked. "At a financial literacy class," Michael said. "The community college offers them. I was taking one to help my students understand money better. Ashley was there for—" He glanced at her. "For my probation requirements," Ashley finished. "Part of my restitution plan. I have to take classes on financial management." "She was the best student in the class," Michael said. "Asked questions, took notes, actually cared about learning." Ashley blushed. I had a lot to learn. After they left, I sat on the porch and thought about Michael. He seemed genuine, stable, the kind of man Ashley should have married the first time. But I'd been wrong before.